Thank you for being here. As you know, earlier today, the Buffalo Police Department released a timeline of known interactions between officers in the Buffalo Police Department, Officer Woods, and the Scocellis family. In accordance with Mayor Ryan's directive to have a clear and transparent police department, we are publishing as much information as we can without jeopardizing any of the investigations. At this point, Buffalo Police Department Internal Affairs has an open investigation into everything that happened on February 14th in the early morning hours of February 15th to see if all procedures, policies, rules, and regulations were followed. Officer Woods has been suspended with pay as of February 16th, and there is a captain who is suspended, correction. Officer Woods was suspended without pay as of February 16th, and there is a captain who has been suspended with pay as of February 15th. At that point, I will open this up for questions. While I am talking about transparency, there is some things that I absolutely cannot get into as it pertains to the homicide investigation and or internal affairs investigations.
Chief, was there any warning signs that this incident might happen? I mean, conversations that the officer might have had with coworkers, any signs like that? Can you elaborate on that at all?
I am not aware of any of those.
Commissioner, why was the captain suspended? I mean, something must have happened for this person to be suspended. What can you tell us?
That's a fair question. I'm not overly happy with the timeline on when other members were notified in the department of this situation, and we do have some information that would lead us to believe that there is some rules and regulations that might not have been followed, but I will let that investigation play out.
Commissioner, did the accused have any prior offenses specifically related to domestic violence?
Not that I'm aware of.
Was the officer and the captain friends?
I do not know that answer.
Is the captain D district or E district?
The captain works for the Buffalo Police Department.
Is there any information you can tell us, you know, in part of the timeline at 7:52, Woods is at the station house. I mean, is there any information you can share about the conversation between Woods and the captain at that point? Did he say why he was there with his children?
Sure. So that is part of the internal affairs investigation, but I will tell you that that is also in connection to the check the welfare that gets put into place earlier in the day from the family to Lewiston Police and to the Buffalo Police. But the specifics that ultimately get him to the station are still under investigation.
How bizarre is that? The whole sequencing of events.
I have to tell you, I have never been involved in an incident where an officer has been charged with murder, so there is nothing normal about this. So I don't have an answer for that.
Did Officer Woods request that the captain make a welfare check to Lewiston Police? Was that part of that 7:52 timeline?
So there is discussions between members of the Buffalo Police Department and Lewiston Police. The actual details are still being ironed out as people still need to give statements to internal affairs.
Can you explain why you're not IDing the captain that was suspended?
Sure. So there is a concern for due process, and then we also don't know the extent of any involvement and how it could possibly play into somebody else's investigation. So out of an abundance of caution to see how that both of those things play out, it's I would say premature to release that.
Why did Woods have two children with him? Were they his kids?
They were his kids.
Do you know why they were with him at work?
I don't know why he had his kids with him.
Was he was off duty at the time this was unfolding, right? Saturday and Sunday?
He was.
Did you say earlier about the children? Can you just clarify about how that related to the check the welfare call and the presence of the children?
So the children arrived to the station house with him, and that check the welfare is being conducted at the Delta District Station House, and he has his kids. He brings them in there to have a discussion with the captain.
Did Woods bring the kids there by request of the Lewiston Police?
I do not know that.
Is there any reason to believe that the children may have been in danger?
Not at this time. At the time that that was happening, no. This is a check the welfare call, right, from the information that I have. So, no.
When you mentioned check the welfare, can you explain, you know, check the welfare of Woods, check the welfare of the victim in this case? I mean, what?
So the original call, thank you. So the original call is concerning the victim, right? And then there ends up being a dialogue to try to find Woods to be able to see if he knows where the victim is, and that ends up how that day transpires.
Are you able to share the ages of the children that were with him?
No, they're young.
The captain and the officer did speak though, right?
They did,
How long, has this captain been with the department for some time? And
Yes.
is this an experienced person?
yes.
Was this this conversation they had, was this recorded on video or body camera or anything like that?
So that's evidentiary, and I don't want to get into that.
Can you speak to if it's believed the service weapon of Officer Woods was at all used in the course of this alleged crime?
Fair question, but that goes back to the homicide investigation. I will not comment on Lewiston's or the AG's investigation.
Can you say what was found in the locker?
No.
So he's an SRO, but he had a locker at one of the district stations, at D or E, or can you say?
No. So SRO's, their station house is at the corner of Louisiana and South Park. I believe it's the old school number 4. That's where the search warrant was conducted on his locker.
How distressing is this whole incident? I mean, you're just coming into being interim police commissioner to deal with something like this less than 2 months into your tenure. Personally, how distressing is this for you?
Well, it's an awful situation for everybody, right? Take me out of the equation. There is a family who lost a daughter. There's 2 kids that lost a mom, and you know, it's a possibility that they will be losing contact with their father, right? And a department member is being charged with murder. You know, there's pretty much no higher charges. So it's concerning and it's sad for everybody.
What internal charges would he be facing, or is he facing that led to suspension? Officer Woods?
So his is just going to be a general conduct, and the way that process plays out, if there's a question on why there is a day in between, so he is ultimately suspended Sunday morning with pay. We waited for the charging documents to be able to take the narrative from the criminal charging documents to then be able to put them on internal charging documents, and then that's where we went from there. So that was the delay in the day.
Had any complaints ever been filed against Officer Woods while on duty?
Not recently.
Well, if there were some,
In the past, yes,
how far back?
a while.
Was this the officer's, like, residence in Lewiston?
So if I'm being totally honest, I don't understand the dynamic of who lived where and the relationship between the two.
Could BPD officers have to live in the city, or am I incorrect?
No, that's, so there is a previous, so there's been periods where people get hired under certain contracts. During those periods that they're hired, they might have an obligation to stay in the city. Our last MOA that was signed in December, for moving forward, there's officers that have to live in the city for 7 years. Then there was a period prior to this where there was no residency, but then there's also some people that are on a contract where they have to be in the city. So there's people junior and senior to them that do not have to live in the city, but given the time that they were hired, they do have to live in the city. So it just depends on the hire date and what contract you got hired under.
Can you say what types of complaints were made against Woods in the past?
No, we're not gonna release that, but I can tell you they're over 10 years ago, so it's been a while.
As far as the captain's internal affairs investigation goes, I understand there's not a lot you can say at this point, but are you able to kind of explain what kind of information may be gathered during the course of this generally? You know, what are you looking at in terms of determining, you know, an outcome for this captain?
Sure. Well, I don't want to talk about an outcome because that would mean that I'm passing a presumption on something was definitely wrong, right? There's enough to indicate that there are certain things that were not followed. The magnitude of those will come out in the investigation. It could be anywhere from professionalism to just basic manual of procedures violations.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.